I'm Andrew Owen, the host for today's episode, alongside Chloe, a current student at UC Berkeley. In this episode, we will discuss her major and career aspirations. So let's welcome Chloe to the show. How are you doing, Chloe?
Hi, Andrew. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. It's very early in the morning here, but
Right.
had a great start to the week, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, thank you so much for waking up early in the morning and doing this podcast.
Of course, no worries at all. I love sharing what I've learned so far and sharing my experiences to potential our university students, even high school students. So very excited for
Awesome.
this.
Looking forward to hearing more.
hmm
So, can you tell me about your high school that you attended, and then the current
Yeah.
university and the major that you're doing?
Of course. So I attended British School Jakarta in the last 2 years of high school, so grade 11 and 12. Before that, grade 10 to 11, I was at Ichthus School in the West region. And now I'm a student at UC Berkeley. I'm a junior, so third year. I'm majoring in business administration and minoring in data science. So that's where I currently am. And yeah, I'm happy to share more about that experience.
Nice. And then in terms of like when you were in high school, right? Like
hmm
how did you like decided like to choose your major? Did you have a hard time choosing one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in high school, honestly, I came in with a slight interest in computer science. But the great thing about colleges in America is that you don't have to declare your major right up front, unlike colleges in the UK. So in the US, I came in wanting to do CS or something along those lines. I tried out a few classes in the first 2 semesters of college, and I realized that this isn't the path for me, and that's why I applied to the business program at UC Berkeley and got in. So that's why now I'm a business major. But I guess in college, I did a lot of STEM heavy classes. So I did physics, math, chemistry. I kind of liked it, but I realized that I did like economics a little bit more. But since I had a STEM heavy background, that's why I was like, okay, let's try to do computer science. So long story short, I think it's a great thing to have a lot of flexibility, and that's what you do have in picking a major in US colleges.
And what was like the idea behind doing computer science? 'Cause
Yeah,
in the beginning.
it's a really good question because at that time, like in high school, I didn't have computer science background or knowledge. So I just kind of, I had a few friends who were taking computer science and they liked it. They also seemed to be, having really great internships because of the majors. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a great way to have good internships. And then, it's a very bankable major. But that's kind of when I realized, 2 semesters in after taking those really hard Berkeley CS classes, that's when I realized I would rather do something I like than do something I really don't like, even though it might get me a better job and things like that. But at the end, things turned out really well anyways. So that's kind of why I got into it. But just remember, there's a lot of flexibility in the major.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's like a very an interesting area to be in, of course, like being a CS
hmm
major.
Exactly.
Um,
A lot of people are there. So.
right. And it's like there's just a lot of demand for them, right? And like what
hmm
like for you personally, like what has been the difference between studying CS versus like studying business in terms of like academically?
Yeah, of course. So CS is definitely more like math rigorous, and it's a lot of there's a very high learning curve in my opinion because I'm not that passionate about it, right?
Hmm.
So it's a lot of coding and doing a lot of large scale projects. Also in Berkeley, a lot of the CS classes are huge, and they have like a to declare the major itself, there's actually a GPA cutoff. You can't declare the CS major until you've taken all the prerequisite classes for CS and you like manage a 3.3 GPA for all the classes. So that's pretty tough. I know 3.3 sounds like, oh, that's not too high, but it actually is very tough. A lot of people don't get the
Hmm.
CS major because of that. So that's definitely first. In terms of business classes, I've only started taking business classes this semester, and so far I'm actually really enjoying it. It's basic like accounting, microeconomics, leadership, things like that. But I enjoy the classes more, so it makes it easier for me to actually learn the things better.
Right. I actually took one CS class in college. It was C++.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Was it
and
was it very hard?
it was hard. And I think like the lab work was even harder because you're like
Yeah.
stuck in the lab until
Yeah.
late at night.
Exactly.
And then if you're missing like for me at least that at that time when if you're missing like a comma, then
Hmm.
the whole program
It was
is
like,
like doesn't work.
yeah, it's a lot of meticulous details in CS, but I mean, a lot of people like it, so
Right.
kudos to those people.
Right. And then in terms of like going to college, right, after high
Hmm.
school, and I know this is like a few years ago, but like what was it about college that surprised you when
Yeah.
you entered university?
Yeah, I think something that surprised me when I transitioned from high school to college is that, first of all, in college, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. You know how in high school it's like, oh, there are certain clubs, and then you have the pressure of doing certain clubs to get into university. In college, you really have the freedom to do whatever you want. Like, I was really passionate about acting, which was something I could never do in high school because I didn't have the time, or like it didn't help me in college or to
Mhm.
get into college. But in university, I had the freedom to do that. I started doing like acting classes, got an agent, did a lot of commercials and things like that. Had a really fun spiel in the first 2 years of college doing acting. So that's definitely something first that was very different. Secondly, there really is no hand holding in college. In high school, you have your teachers there, you have your parents, you have friends who want to do the same things, go to a good college, things like that. But in university, so many people want to do so many things, and also there's no like teacher that will be guiding you throughout the way. You don't have the same teacher like in the next few semesters, things like that. So with that comes a lot of responsibility on your hands. You can either just do nothing throughout college and just take classes and nothing else, or you can do internships, you can start doing research, do things that make you happy, like acting for me. So you have to kind of make sure you organize your 4 years in college really well. I think that's definitely a huge tip that a lot of people look over, because they're like, oh, I'm gonna just take classes and that's it.
Mhm.
But then at the end you're like, oh, I gain knowledge from classes but not too much experience. So it's very important to take note, be
Right.
organized in that sense.
Right. And then in terms of your major, so I guess we can focus more on business for this
Hmm.
question. Uh,
Yeah, sure.
what were some of your expectations before you attended the university, and what was like the reality of it?
Yeah, so as I said, I came in wanting to do CS, so I didn't even know that Berkeley had a business major. So Berkeley's business major, first of all, like a little intro on it, it's within the Haas School of Business, and you have to apply to the major in your sophomore year. So basically, you do the business major in your junior, so your third year, and your fourth year. So it's a 2-year program. And I guess when I applied, I had the expectation that, oh, these are going to be really great collaborative classes, and we're going to have a lot of knowledge within business in different aspects. And I am only 1 semester in, so I can't like really say what my 2-year experience is. But so far, I've been really enjoying it. I know everything's on Zoom, so there's not a lot of not too much collaboration.
Mhm.
You don't really feel the Haas vibe. That's what they say. But so far, I do enjoy the classes. I can definitely see why a lot of people like the major. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed way more than where I am previously.
Right. Okay. And then like in terms of like students that wants to do like the major, like
Hmm.
what advice can you give them
Yeah,
like to
the
prepare earlier?
yeah, a lot of people want to get into the business major, so it is very, very competitive.
Mhm.
Um, Even just with the Berkeley students that apply, there's like a 30% acceptance rate, like from Berkeley students who apply. So I guess it's really competitive given that the population of applicants is already Berkeley students. But the huge thing with Haas is that they really care about your GPA. I think that's like 50% of their admission is, or their decision is based on your current GPA. To be fair, like very, very honest, I didn't have a good GPA when I applied. Like it wasn't, so the average is like 3.7 or something like that, or 3.8 for the applicants. And I was like way below that. Like, don't worry. And my GPA was bad. And so I thought, oh my God, I won't have a chance to get in. But there's also other portions of the application, which are essay and extracurriculars or resume or something like that. And I just made sure my essay was really good. explaining why I want Haas, what I'm going to do with that major, my future plans, things like that. So make sure that's really solid. And then make sure your resume is also really solid. Show what you've done in the past 2 years. I did my acting work, so I put that in there. Did a lot of extracurriculars like clubs and stuff as well. Some internships here and there. So put all of that in. And yeah, and now I'm here accepted for some reason. So
Nice.
I would say even if you don't have a high GPA, don't worry about it. You have like essay and your resume to kind of balance that off.
Right. Great. Congrats on getting in.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
And I think also because probably like most likely the CS part of your classes were super hard, right?
Yeah.
And
It was definitely CS classes too.
Right. And I think probably the admission are looking into the courses that you took and
Yeah.
how hard it was.
Yeah, that's very important actually.
Right.
Yeah.
And that explains kind of like the GPA that you have. So it's good.
Exactly.
It's good that they actually are analyzing it, not just like students just
a high
they
GPA. Do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. They look at the difficulty of the classes you do.
Right. And I think that's like almost the same with like freshman admission.
Yes.
They really like analyze every single thing that you put into your application. Right.
No, yeah, I completely agree.
Right. And I remember like back in high school, you're pretty like active, right? You're like pretty involved in a lot of the extracurricular activities. Like what kind of like I guess for the younger generation that's like still in high school, what inspired you to like be so active and be so involved?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, and I think there's not a single thing that really inspired me, but in general, I lived in Jakarta, Indonesia, as probably many of you guys are living at right now. And just, I guess what inspired me was, just looking around my community. I lived in a neighborhood where, just a few blocks down, there were a lot of slum areas. And I'm pretty sure a lot of places in Jakarta do have that. So even just I've done a lot of community service there, just being around these people and realizing that, oh my, like I am very privileged to be where I am. That already inspired me. That's why I did a lot of, in college, or sorry, not in college, in high school, I did a lot of community service work. I had a anti-drug organization. I did a lot of community service work, did like an online business, but donated the profits for the benefit of a lot of these children. So that's kind of just what inspired me, I guess, looking around the community and realizing, oh my God, I'm very, very privileged to have what I have. So that's why I give back. But I guess also in general, if I had like a tip or advice in terms of what to do in high school, I would say focus on quality over quantity. I'm pretty sure, like Andrew, I'm pretty sure you can also back this up, but admissions counts, or people who read the admission applications, they really like when you've done something and you show passion in what you do instead of doing like 10 extracurriculars that you've only been at for 6 months or something like that, and you're just a member. So focus on doing, I hope you're like early on, grade 10, grade 9, focus on doing something throughout college or throughout high school that you're very passionate about, and show that in your application.
And then in terms of your like career aspirations in the future, like were you able to get any internship, and also like what, I guess next we can ask you like what you hope to accomplish in the future, but like right now, like have you done any like internships, or like how do you prepare for your career?
Yeah, of course. So I'll answer your first part first, which is like what have I been doing? So the thing is, when I came in, as I said, I really wanted to be an actress. I was like very dead on doing acting in Hollywood. So the first 2 years of college, I focused on that a lot. But then I pivoted. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. And that's the beauty about college, right? You have the flexibility to do that. You can't do that anymore when you're working full time. So and then in like late sophomore year, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't want to be an actress anymore. I'll focus on like getting a business related internship. So I got an internship this past summer. I got an internship at Intel. I did product marketing for the AI products. I know, like a huge pivot from acting and things like that, but I did product marketing for their newly launched AI products. And I also at the same time interned at a venture capital firm called Ride Ventures. They're based in LA, and I did a lot of investments with potential startups, talked to a lot of founders, things like that. So I had those two internships. And see, because of COVID, I was able to do both of them. But
Wow.
yeah, I know, it's crazy. But yeah, I was really interested in VC already before the summer, or just like throughout college. I was like, venture capital is maybe something I want to go into. And then that internship really solidified my interest in it. But I guess for the short term in terms of career, I am going into consulting. So I recently, for the past few months, including summer, I've been recruiting for a lot of internships. And I finally, like 2 weeks ago, I finally got an internship at Bain and Company. I'm doing, or as an associate consultant intern in their SF office next summer. And so yeah, I'm going to do the consulting route for the next few years of my career, and then potentially pivot into venture capital afterwards
That's so cool.
and get an MBA somewhere in there. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. That's a good plan.
Thank you.
And then and I think like being in, because I used to work at Disney, right? And I remember when I was there, you know, like working for such a big company, like you don't realize how big a company can be.
Yeah, definitely.
Comparing to Indonesia, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
like if you count the number of billion-dollar company in Indo, like you can probably count
Mm-hmm.
by your fingers,
By your fingers,
right?
exactly.
And then in the US, like just the playing field is so much different because there's so many
Mm-hmm.
billion-dollar companies, right? That sometimes you don't hear about, and they're a billion-dollar company. And
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like the opportunity of like working for such a big company. It's like there's really nowhere else in the world that you can be in
Mm-hmm.
except the US. Like
Exactly.
with
No,
this, you know,
definitely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think,
I always say to people, if you want a very good corporate career, like you want to be in the corporate world, America is like the best place to be. If you want to do startups and things, America is awesome, but I feel like Southeast Asia is even better
mhm,
for
mhm.
startups. But
and
yeah.
and I also feel like I think the VC and the mentorship that they give in the US too, like with
Mm-hmm.
startup,
Mm-hmm.
like it has it has kind of like propelled so many companies to be great.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think in
That's yeah.
Indo, it's like easier to start something because it's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like the mentorship is like not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a lot of VCs, right? But it's not like as big as like the US in
Yeah.
terms of like
Yeah.
the
No,
amount
definitely.
of VCs.
There's so many VCs in the US now.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right.
crazy.
And a lot of people don't know like what they do, and they don't have experience in working with one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. It's good that you already have those experiences.
Yeah, it is. I know venture capital is like booming, especially if you go to UC Berkeley. You know, we're near San Francisco, near Silicon Valley. So many people want to go into either
Mhm,
tech companies or venture capital. They want to build their own startups, and it's very inspiring to be around people like that. So
mhm,
it's pretty cool.
mhm. Are you looking to do your own startup in like the future?
Yeah, so like I highly considered that, but I think after thinking about it even more, maybe I want to go into the venture route more than startups, because like in venture capital you get to invest in so many different startups and like so many different ideas, whereas a startup you have to focus on your own,
Mhm,
which is great. Like
mhm,
startups are awesome, right? But I would rather like look at a lot of things, have a portfolio of companies, and yeah, so that's kind
mhm,
of where I want to be.
mhm. Nice. Okay. And then, do you have any like kind of like last advice for students that's trying to like apply to university in general and finding a
Yeah.
major that is working for you?
Yeah, first of all, okay, yeah, I do have several advices. First of all, don't underestimate any portion of the application. I know that's like such a cliche thing to say, but really everyone thinks that, oh, for example, the extracurriculars that they type in their common app, that's not too important, but like super important. The admissions people, like they read everything. Make sure, you know, your essays, you really think it through. Don't do your essays last minute. Like do it at very least a month or two ahead. of the application deadline, because you really need to take time to think about it, reiterate, ask for people for feedback and things like that. So that's very important. Secondly, I think apply to a lot of different colleges, especially nowadays. I feel like competition just increases every single year. So make sure you apply to different colleges to make sure you have backup plans, and make sure even the safety colleges you apply to, you are okay with going to them, because like it's kind of useless if you apply to a college that you would never want to go to, right?
Yeah.
So at least like they're ones that interest you. And then I think a third tip is that make sure you show your passions as to why you're doing your extracurriculars or why you're taking certain classes. Like have a story behind those, because that's very important. Like don't just say, oh, I am doing an anti-drug organization just because, just because it's really cool and my friend had it as well. Don't do that. Have a story behind it, because people love reading stories that are touching and really inspiring. So yeah, I think that's my advice. But overall, don't stress out too much about it. I think I definitely stress out too much about it. Don't, because college is not the end of the world. People don't get into their dream colleges, but still get an amazing internship, get an amazing job. And that's kind of what matters, right? Your college is for your career. And if you can get a good career even without getting to your dream university, that's awesome. So
Right.
yeah.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds good, Chloe. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being a part of this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.